rise. All right, welcome everyone to the June 21st Police and Fire Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is a call to order, and then the second is a pledge of allegiance. If we could all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda is approval of minutes from the June 5th, 2023 Police and Fire Commission meeting. Any comments, questions? Motions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. All right, motion carries. Public appearances for non-agenda items. In the past, we've had folks come in and share thoughts on police, fire service, and everything that our great folks in both services are doing. So the public is certainly welcome to do so each time we get together. I will move to amend the agenda to move the staffing report for fire and the staffing report for police to the next item on the agenda.
Do we just want to move one? Because is that in honor and to recognize the mayor when she's ready?
Right.
Can we move just 6?
Sure.
Can we amend that?
Yep.
We'll start with the report from the fire. Okay, so we'll just, or is she?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll withdraw that motion, and Madam Mayor, if you're available, agenda item number 5, welcome from new Mayor Julia Aratafrata. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's okay? Okay. Thank you very much. So, what do you want to know?
Well, welcome. Maybe just a little bit about vision for the public service role that the commissions and committees play in the city government, and then specific to Police and Fire Commission, the Police and Fire Service. Just appreciate everything you've done as an alder, and look forward to your term as mayor as well.
Yeah, no, so thank you. I am glad to be here today, and I can share some of my, priorities regarding the police and fire department. I want to thank, all the members in our department, especially the police and department and the fire staff that they are working, some of them a lot of overtime time, and police department too, because they have the vacancy. So I have very good, meetings with the 2 chiefs. I meet with them monthly, and sometimes during the week we have some phone calls, so I am very interactive with them. They communicate with me if there is any issue in the city. We are, I am on the loop of everything that. That said, I have my concerns with the overtime in the fire department. So that one is something that we need to wait for the share revenue that is coming, approved, and then determine what we need to do for this year in the short term, and also look for solution for the long term. So I think we have some short-term solution that we can implement on long term for next year budget. I know that the staffing in the fire department is my priority. Regarding the police department, my concern are also the vacancies. So I know that when I started as a mayor, there were 11, now there are 7. So, we had 2 field officers, and then we have two that are in the academy. So they are not, they are still, not fully in charge of be able to be out by themselves yet. But I talked to Chief Morales, and we have, some action plan. The idea is to prioritize and get the, the fill the vacancies, and then also what are the priorities for next year, staffing. So I think he mentioned, and we discussed last week, some of his staffing plan for the next 5 years, and then what are the priorities for next year. So if the budget allowed, this is my, it's going to be part of the plan, what else? And the other thing that if you look at my capital improvement plan, I reinstated $10 million more for the police facility, so that we have a budget of $35 million, and I think we can do a great facility with $35 million. And the idea is that the location is going to be here in front of the library. That one was the location, and personally, I want the police station to be located here in the civic campus. There's other elders that they have other ideas, but I disagree. What else? I don't know. You asked me another question, but yeah.
Those are fantastic updates. That's, I think, just bringing you here and just letting the citizens know that we want to work together to better the city of Fitchburg. So I think these are great bullet points that I think we'll just kind of be able to follow up on and continue the conversations on our end, ensuring that everybody's still on the same path.
No, yeah, so I think that, is, I am new here and I am learning, how to navigate this, but I am very grateful of the police department and the fire department that we have, so I'm very proud of the two departments, and, and we continue working, and, if I know the needs that they have, I know that there are different needs, you know what I mean? But we need to work together in finding solution. I am a very result-oriented person. I like things to happen. I don't like to talk and talk and talk. And so this is why we are also waiting for the Baker-Tilly staffing plan, and we see how that plan aligns with the staffing plan that the chief of fire put together with Joe. And also, I think Joe, shared that plan with the PFC, isn't it?
The staffing plan that we established right now is on the city administrator's desk. They're just going through a proof of it real quick.
Okay, yeah.
We will be able to, once that proof is done,
Okay.
We will be sharing that with all of our alders, elected officials, and the Police and Fire Commission will also get a copy of that.
So, and then Chief Morales has also his own staffing plan, and I think we need to look when we receive the staffing plan to determine how it aligns with the two other plans, you know what I mean? I don't think there is going to be too much surprises, you know what I mean? But I think we need to determine how these two plans align with this plan. And that one will be, we are going to know when, in July.
Yeah, we'll have the report already for the July 12th personnel committee.
Yeah, and, so we'll see. There is, I think share revenue is going to be, most of the money had to be used by public safety and transportation and public works. So, I think we're going to get, according to the number that I saw today, $765,000. That is going to alleviate the problem, but it's not going to solve the problem that we have, at all. We are short of money for the next couple of years. So it's something that the council will talk about in our next committee of the whole. It's going to talk about other sources of revenue that maybe we need to start thinking as a city. Because levy limit is our cap, and our expenditure are growing at a faster pace. And the city is growing. The growth, the expenditure, inflation, and cost of construction are making that our our revenue are set. All of this is growing. So, and today I will say I don't want to cut services. I don't want to cut any other stuff. So we are in a crossroad situation with the growth of expenditure, So, and then we have an issue with, staffing, that we need to hire more people, and then how it's going to affect our budget, so.
And then being able to hire with incentive of not them
Yeah.
seeing the overtime statistics and
Yeah,
being
no, it's-
deterred by that. I think that's our role, is helping with the hiring and
Yeah.
such. And so that's always something that
Yeah.
we question. So I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that that's a priority and helping eliminate that.
Yeah, and I mentioned that especially to Joe, that, the overtime issue at the fire department is if you look at the numbers, I have able to see numbers and compare from previous year, and is very concerning, and I think in the short term maybe we should, and also we need to start thinking, and I agree with the chief, with Joe, is the structure of our fire department model that, now is 25 full-time career firefighters against 75 who are pay on call. I think the model it had to change eventually, and I am all in favor to make that transition, because pay on call pool of candidates is shrinking, we cannot, especially in our cities growing, we have more, our population, we just acquired 1,500 new residents, and the growth of roads is very rapid, and, we cannot depend on a pay-on-call model. And I agree with that change, and we had to do it in a way that is organically done, and in doing that, I think with the new staffing that the chief is putting together, we can have like a plan to how to do it. But it's gonna cost money, you know what I mean? But I think maybe the city of Fitchburg is had to be ready for that transition. It's time to do it. So that's it. I don't know, any other question? You can ask me a question.
Any other thoughts or questions for the mayor?
No, I think that's great. Thank you for coming
Okay.
in.
No,
Thank you
thank you
for,
for inviting-
yes, for giving us a little insight as to the plan, and yeah, I hope that helps some of the applicants, potential applicants as well, want to jump on board and be a part of Fitchburg.
And also, I think, when we build the new facility, especially for the police department, it's going to be another retention. I think it's going to be another great retention tool because, it's going to be a great
Proud.
facility. You have your, compared to what they have right now.
Yes.
And I think that one is also could be a good step, to move forward and to be able to retain more people here, you know what I mean, and attract more people, so.
I said, that's time, we're growing, and that's been a dire need for a while, so.
Yeah, no, we are going to build it, so
Yes.
it's there in the CIP, we are moving forward, and it's coming, and, since I remember I joined council in 2015, and I remember that I was in the first task force group that we discussed the police, and then for some reason,
Right,
we didn't move forward at that time, but it has been in the CIP for many, many years. It's time to do it, so.
it takes somebody to push it
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, we,
sounds like-
it has been, in the last 2 years, I think Mayor Aaron Richardson, started the process last year, and I'm going to finish it, so,
Good,
yeah.
wonderful, no, thank you very.
Okay,
Yep, thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming, appreciate it.
bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, well, let's move to agenda item 6A, staffing report, Chief Pulvermacher.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. I am coming to you live from the Kalahari Resort as part of the Wisconsin State Fire Chiefs Annual Convention. It's through this organization that we have been able to address a number of different things that have been going on throughout the state. Our advocacy for shared revenue is one of those things that we have talked about relentlessly, and we're seeing some returns on that with the things that we've seen throughout the state this week. And One of the things that I can speak to is the fact that we have bipartisan support for public safety in the way that shared revenue is designed to help out municipalities. It's been neglected for a very long time, and we're finally to the point where we're starting to see some returns. What I hope that does is reflect positively on what you're seeing in front of you with our staffing report. We are still low in numbers, and it has affected our overtime. I sent out the newsletter earlier this week to our department heads and to our elected officials. If you have not received that yet, I'll make sure you get it, or I'll ask Sarah to send it to you to make sure you have the updates on overtime and some of the other things that we've been working on, to include some of the safety messages that we're trying to get out in advance of the 4th of July. We also, if you look at the staffing report, you'll see that we've made some strides in our hiring of candidates for our intern position. And we've got a pretty good cross-section of our community within our interns. It's a really strong group. We're pretty excited about what they are going to be bringing to the table. And so far, their excitement for the fire service has been represented in their training. We hope to have them on board for staffing toward the end of summer. We're also training 6 paid on call, paid on premises firefighters right now. They're too a pretty strong group, and we hope to be taking advantage of their ability to staff our response in the middle of the summer. But that said, the nationwide average for paid on call, paid on premises, part-time volunteer firefighters is going down, and so we can do everything possible to try to recruit talent and make sure that we have people on staff to be able to staff our response, but we can only expect what we can expect out of the workforce. And right now, we're trying to figure out what that staffing plan looks like as our part-time membership goes down. And that's one of the things that Mayor Radafrada spoke to, is the staffing plan that is being presented in advance of the Baker-Tilly report to help support some of the things that were brought up by our membership. And it hopefully communicates what we are trying to do over the next 3 to 5 years. And that's an important note to make, is the fact that it is a 3 to 5 year plan. That doesn't mean after 5 years, additional staff is not needed. It actually is, but we're trying to be realistic in our approach to be able to address the overall need to get in front of staffing, reduce the amount of overtime that we have within our membership, and create a better working environment that way. Right now, we just have people who are working a lot of hours. They're exhausted. They're getting a little bit frustrated in the sense that it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight at this point, but we are working diligently to try to establish what is needed to morph into a career rooted department that has more sustainable and predictable staffing. And so a lot of work to be done. This is an exciting time for us in the sense that we hopefully have the support to be able to address our staffing concerns, because it's not going away.
Chief, what does extra overtime look like in the department? What duties or responsibilities are your staff and you fulfilling, during those overtime hours?
Yeah, so right now it's a matter of primarily staffing the emergency response. We have a minimum staffing of 9 people. That's 8 firefighters / lieutenants, and then an OIC, or an officer in charge. That's primarily where our overtime is. We're not doing a whole lot in extra effort right now from a training perspective or anything else. Most of our training that's being done on an overtime basis is supported by the state and reimbursed. So our overtime and the numbers that we're seeing is based on the fact that we've had some FMLA, some injuries. We've had a reduction in our paid on call, paid on premises workforce, some resignations in that regard. And then we do have a transition from a 52 to a 48-hour work week with our career staff, which is something that was put into place to resemble the work environment and the work hours of Fitch-Rona EMS. So it just gives you an idea of how that overtime is affected. You can see some of those numbers have gone down as compared to what we saw last month. And actually, you don't have that in front of you, but I can share with you the information that was shared on in our newsletter, which you'll have access to. In May, we had 1,410 hours of overtime, and in June we had 1,132 hours. So down a little bit, but still more than what we had last year, which was 372 hours in June.
But we're still in June, right? You're talking this June? That's where we are right now, 1,100-ish?
Correct.
And we're 1,400-ish in May. Just a couple things, just to kind of get us caught up. We only have the staffing report. We don't have the overtime or what he's talking about. I haven't seen that.
It's in the newsletter. The newsletter was released at the beginning of this week, and so we can get that over to you.
Was that just emailed to us?
It wasn't
Yeah,
emailed.
I
We can email it.
I have it in front of me if you want me to project it.
No, I just want to make sure we're on I don't recall getting it, maybe.
Yeah, you didn't get it. Well, he just
Okay.
sent it out on Monday, so we can forward that to you.
Yeah, we'd love to be on that.
Yep.
On that chain. And then will that include the Baker Tilly report?
Nope, so the Baker Tilly's still in draft form, so they're going to have the final to us really soon.
Will you
so,
make sure that we?
Oh, yeah, we
Okay,
can share
awesome.
that. Yep.
No, that's great. Thank you.
So you said a lot of your extra overtime is on EMS calls.
It's on just staffing the vehicle. So a lot of our responses are EMS. We support the EMS response, and that's done for a number of different reasons. A lot of our EMS calls are personnel dependent. There's a lot of things that are assigned during the initial response. And then because of the fact that there's a safety component with the lifting of patients and so forth, not only safety for our patients, but safety for our care providers to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves. Right. Prior to fire and fire department related support, you'd see a lot of lifting injuries associated with EMS calls. Technology has assisted with that with some mechanical cots, but ultimately making sure you have enough people on scene to be able to help with the packaging, manipulation, and transport of that patient are essential. Not to mention the fact that fire departments are able to establish the initial care. Sometimes our ambulances are out of district because of the fact that they're transporting patients to the hospital. And so what that means is that we need to initiate care with our fire engines. So by responding with fire first, we can assist with that initial patient assessment. We can identify life-threatening situations that need immediate care, and then the paramedics can arrive on scene and work to continue that chain of survival and patient continuum of care. So it all works together. You can't do advanced life support before you've done basic life support, and we assist with that process.
And I know you've talked about this before, but just remind me. So when there's an emergency medical call that goes out, you go, Verona or Fitch-Rona EMS goes, or a local ambulance company, and then are we sending a full rig of 9 people to the call, or how many of our firefighters are going to all those calls?
Yeah, 4 in one engine.
Okay.
And then the engine is typically in district, so they're available for the next response. That's why we keep everybody together.
Yep.
Is because of the fact that we're not just taking the EMS response into consideration. It's any other call that'll come in when they are released from that EMS call. So you want to be available to respond to all of your incidents and have your crew available and maintain your crew integrity.
Yeah, and if you've got 4 on the engine at the firehouse and they all go together to pick and save for some event, then they're easily, they can get out to the next call that they have from there.
Yeah, and actually I speak to that in the newsletter. So when you get it on the front page, there was some questions about why we send 4 people to the grocery store. And we don't always, if we have extra staffing in the station, we'll send 1 person in a rig. But when staffing is tight, we're going to keep everybody together. And that's from a crew integrity standpoint. And we're trying to minimize chaos and confusion on the initial stages of an incident that are typically very personnel dependent.
And I think it's response times that's also important for everybody to understand too, is our ambulances are coming from not necessarily our stations, our cities. Sometimes they are in Verona, sometimes they are elsewhere. So our fire engines can get there faster than, right, and start that care faster than the ambulance. So I think that's also, because that's always a question that everybody brings up is, why do you send the fire truck? Well, because they can get there faster, and that's time is of the essence.
Yeah, you know who doesn't question that? The people who need the help, right? Because they see what's being done. The fortunate thing, right? Because the fact that typically with patient care, there's a certain degree of confidentiality. So we don't go and tell everybody what happens in your house if you're the one receiving care. But those that get to see it can see the amount of work that goes into establishing patient care and getting them to the hospital quickly. Nobody wants us to be on scene for a very long time. And so by working with a crew of 6 versus a crew of 2 on an ambulance, we can process that scene, make sure that the patient is taken care of and transported more quickly so that they can receive the definitive care that they require.
Any other questions on the staffing report? Okay.
Nope.
Well, let's move to, I gotta get back to my agenda here.
So I think the next thing is a closed session, and I know that I can't participate in closed session online. So I did speak with Sarah about those items that are in closed session.
So let's move to the next agenda item, 6B, I believe. Pulling it up here.
Closed session?
Yeah, do you want to take us into
Yeah.
closed session, Sheena?
All right, pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection C, Wisconsin statutes, the commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically to notice the commission of resignations of the paid-on-call firefighters.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor of moving into closed session, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. All right, Chief, we'll see you soon. Okay, we are out of closed session and we'll move to agenda item 6C. Any action to be taken on items discussed in closed session? All right, hearing none, we'll move to agenda item 7A, report from the police department. Lieutenant, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I will cover a few highlights here. The mayor already covered most of our staffing report and nailed it. But I will just recap a few things and point out a slight discrepancy on the total current vacancies. But we are fortunately down to 7 vacancies. We have 2 that are in field training and 2 that are at the academy that started last month. What that translates, though, to is that we still have 11 unfilled staffed positions out on the road. So I think it's been discussed in previous meetings, but from the time we hire someone or start a process to the time they're contributing on their own, it can be a rather lengthy period of time, depending on whether or not they're a lateral or they need to go to the academy. So that's where we stand right now. Any questions on the staffing report?
There's this reference in 2023 to 6 individuals who are eligible for retirement or at eligible retirement age, and then it's art ret doc ent. Do you know what that means?
I don't.
Recommended or retired? Maybe it's it's ret, R-E-T, retired. Wow.
I think it's referencing the upcoming resignation from a detective due to a retirement. That's in closed session,
Gotcha. Okay.
actually.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Lieutenant Hartwick, similar to what we asked Chief Pulvermacher, there's a lot of overtime in the police department. What does overtime look like for a patrol member who is engaged in overtime?
So patrol overtime is going to come in a couple of fashions. One being to cover shift vacancies. So we're ordering folks in, and that's somewhat predictable in the sense that we know that in advance. And as you can see the breakdown here, we had 24 order-ins in the month of May. And those are going to be right around 4 hours because typically they're going to come in 4 hours before their shift or 4 hours, stay 4 hours after their shift. Their primary 8 hours is over. The thing that we can never predict are extension of shifts and investigations. As far as someone may take a call an hour before the end of their shift and now they're here for the next 3 hours. I know it's been discussed previously with emergency mental health detentions. And then we have had a number of higher profile major crimes that have occurred, unfortunately, in May and have continued into June. And so that will keep officers here for sometimes many hours past the end of their shift. So if you're looking at the overtime report here, you can see we had a little bit of a decrease from April into May. And one of the reasons we only had 2 in-service events in the month of May compared to 4 back in April. And then what I really would draw your attention to is the fact that we had a triple shooting that occurred on Memorial Day. And that incident alone accounted for over 100 hours of overtime combined. And during that incident, we were fortunate enough to have a number of off-duty personnel come in and work. We were working with 4 officers on the road when that incident occurred at 7 o'clock in the evening, and so then we were making calls to get people in to respond, many of whom stayed until 3 o'clock in the morning to handle that investigation and get that scene stabilized. So in one day, we're accounting for 100 hours of overtime there. Then that carries on in through the rest of the week. So if you look at the overtime requests under investigations, we had our detectives that were working that investigation pretty much nonstop and accounting for a good deal of overtime that week. So our investigators working on that case accounted for another 80 hours of overtime moving into that week there. So does that answer your question as far as a snapshot of what that overtime might look like?
Yes, I have a question. So, investigations, when we're calling in the detectives, I'm familiar with the fire side of it, but what types of calls are a investigation required? It's not all calls, but so what are common calls that would require an investigation that would take all these hours?
Unlike a lot of larger agencies, our patrol officers are expected to really initiate the investigation and carry it through as far as they can. We recognize, though, that there are significant incidents like a shooting where someone's actually hit and is at the hospital, where we're going to have a number of people investigating and focus solely on interviews, talking to witnesses, gathering digital evidence, and really being involved in a more in-depth investigation. And factors that are considered there include things like the lack of an identified suspect. So if someone has committed a serious crime like shooting multiple people and we don't know who the suspect is or we don't know where they're located, and we need to address that concern immediately, that's going to be a triggering event to call in detectives. And it's important to keep in mind and recognize the fact that our detectives are really, we have one detective that's on call on the weekends, and outside of those weekends, we don't have a detective that is required or being compensated to be on call. And so, as I indicated with the Memorial Day response alone, we were very fortunate that folks are willing to come in, whether they're patrol officers or detectives or sergeants. And we even had some professional staff members that came in just to help answer phone calls, start typing reports, and really pitch in. So we are, very lucky to have a great crew that when there is a great time of need in the community and we need to address a scene that has a lot of complex factors, and we had people at different hospitals. We had, I think, over 20 people that were focused on this at one point.
Any other questions about the staffing report? Okay. Then I'll move that pursuant to Section 1985 1C Wisconsin statutes, the commission move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically to make a hiring recommendations for police officer and to notice the commission of the resignation of a detective.
Second.
Any
discussion? All those in favor?
I'm gonna be dialing out here and just appreciate your time. I have to get on to my next meeting, but I just want to make sure that you guys don't need anything else from me.
No, I don't think so. Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Take care. All right, all those in favor of moving into closed session, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. We are into closed session.
I will make a motion that we we'll give a conditional offer for the position of police officer, contingent on background and all of the other processes they go through.
I'll second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any other actions out of open session? Okay, well, let's move to agenda item 7D, authorization to begin a detective promotional recruitment process. We've had a resignation, notice of a resignation of a detective, and the department, or a retirement, sorry. And the department's looking to approve an authorization to begin a detective promotional recruitment process.
So based on the retirement that is coming up, we are hoping to have a process to coincide with that timeline and to have that posted within the first couple of weeks of July and have that open for a couple of weeks and then go through the actual process or assessment in the first part of August there.
Is anything changing with the hiring process?
No, it will consist of a scenario, portfolio presentation of their past body of work related to investigation specifically, and then panel assessment, including outside investigator or detective.
We opening this up internally or externally?
Yes, it'll be internal.
Internal.
Okay, I'll move to approve the authorization to begin a detective promotional recruitment process.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, anything else from the police department? Okay. Agenda item number 8, any announcements? Okay, and then agenda item number 9, I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you.